Hi, this is Heather, also known as Heathwitch, and I'm back with an unboxing video of an oracle deck that I've wanted for quite a while. And I finally gave in to temptation and ordered it about a week ago. It came very quickly from the US to the UK, which I'm quite pleased about. And it is the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle, written and created by Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz. This is an oracle deck I saw on Kickstarter, and I actually missed the Kickstarter, so I'm really pleased that the creators then decided to sell the deck retail, and I bought it from their site, which is shopspiritelement.com. And this is a 60 card oracle deck, and as it says on the back, it says it's a hauntingly beautiful and unique oracle created to summon personal power and lift the veil to find answers to your burning questions. Now, all I have done so far is unwrapped the deck from its cellophane, so I haven't actually opened this yet. So I thought it would be good to do an unboxing video and have a look to see what it's like. The box itself is a two-piece box, very basic on the inside, which is fine. This beautiful botanical artwork on the edges, Seasons of the Witch. I wonder if they will do more than one of these decks, given it is specifically related to Samhain. And Samhain is fast approaching. We're getting closer to the dark half of the year, which makes me incredibly happy because it's where I naturally rise and feel more like myself. So let's have a look what we've got inside here. Okay, move the deck box out of the way. Right, so we have a guidebook and some cards. Right then. So let's look at the guidebook first. And the guidebook's actually pretty chunky for a book that comes in within a box. Normally the little white book you get with the with normal tarot and oracle decks or other tarot and oracle decks is quite flimsy, and you know, it might run to 50 pages if you're lucky. This is actually very, very chunky. And runs to 172 pages. And in fact, there we go. Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. Fantastic. Coming summer 2019. I've not heard anything about that yet, so I'm wondering if it's delayed. So, yeah, I will have a look around and see if I can find any more information about that. Now, the companion guidebook, beautiful artwork on the front, totally appropriate for the theme. Fits nicely in the hand. The spine, the binding is good. The printing is not too close to the spine there. That's really nice. It is legible even from this distance with me sitting behind the camera, which is nice. The illustrations are by Giada Rose, so the actual deck is written by Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz, and the illustrations are by Giada Rose. Now, it would have been really nice if the artist had got a credit actually on the box, because on the front and the back of the box there is no mention of her. And while, you know, conceiving and writing an oracle deck or a tarot deck is a huge undertaking in itself, the artwork takes so much time and focus and energy, and I would have really liked to see Giada's name actually on the box. So yeah, maybe they will do that for future editions. So in here we have a brief introduction, brief history of Samhain, witch familiars, and then we're straight into cards. How to use this booklet, and we're straight into the card meanings. I like how they've got this separation with the artwork in, because you can then see where the different sections begin, which tools, So I'm thinking that these are the different types of cards you get in the deck. Samhain cards. Yeah. Okay. Lots and lots of information about each of the cards there. And you get a good, looking at it, you get a good couple of pages on each card, really. Some of the printing is a little bit on a diagonal in places. And then reading spreads. So how many spreads do we get? We get your typical 3-card spreads. Interview your deck. A transition spread called Graveyard. Now that sounds really interesting. I could use that for quite a lot of things when I'm ending projects and beginning new projects, or when things feel like they have to be moved out of my life. I could see myself using that quite a bit. Spiritual Counsel spread, connecting with my guides and ancestors. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, a nice take on a 3-card spread there. Reclaiming my power. What's holding me back? How can I release it? What's my strength? How can I learn to love myself more? Where can I find inspiration? A gift my guides are trying to give to me. Okay. A protection spread. That's a nice touch. You know, if we want advice about a particular situation, that would be quite nice. And I could see that being like a spread that you could do, and then you could easily incorporate that into some kind of protection, magical working, some kind of spell or ritual. So that would be really interesting. Spread for allowing change, guidance for the week ahead. Spread for wisdom. Nice, yeah. Moon phases. Yeah. Shadow spread for loving your darkness. Ooh, there's some really interesting spreads here. They've really thought about what would be different and what would tie into the concept of Samhain. So yeah, healer spread, coming of winter, rest and reflection, cutting cords, acknowledgements, author, information. There we go. Now for people who do not know, Samhain is the Celtic festival that occurs on or around October 31st. Astrologically, it can be up to a week later. I think this year, 2019, astrological Samhain is actually something like the 6th or 7th of October. I would have to check my diary for that. Most witches and pagans who follow a Celtic wheel of the year in terms of their festivals and sabbats celebrate Samhain on the 31st of October. It is different to Halloween, which is a much more commercialised holiday. Samhain has a lot more spiritual, religious significance, and is considered to be the time when, or a time in the year, not the only time, but a time in the year where the veils are thin, and therefore we can connect more easily with our beloved dead, our mighty dead, our ancestors, the divine, different gods and goddesses, things like that. And a lot of Halloween customs have grown out of Samhain, traditional Samhain customs, like the jack-o'-lantern used to be a swede or a turnip, and used to be placed in windows to guide our beloved dead home to us. So yeah, and it's a good time of year to do a lot of magic relating to ancestors and remembrance. And it's a very powerful year for witches because it is obviously the season of the witch. And it's probably the one time of year where it is acceptable to be a witch in modern society. Though that is changing. Witches are becoming much more mainstream. So yeah. So we've had a quick look at the book. Let's have a look at the cards. Just put the book there. So first thing, cardstock. It's decent enough cardstock. It's not too flimsy. It's not too rigid. I'll see what it's like to shuffle with when we've looked at the cards. Nice size. Fits in the hand nicely, or in my hands nicely at least. The back, I don't know if you can see, but the back is this lovely botanical leaves and ferns pattern on the back, which I just absolutely adore. There you go. That's probably the best I can do. The palette for this is quite dark in terms of all the colours, which I am loving, because quite a lot of the time, even on decks that are very, very witch orientated, they still tend to be quite bright in terms of colours. Excuse me. So it's quite nice to see a darker deck, and it is an oracle deck. It's not a tarot deck, so you know it will be very interesting to see what cards we get. So let's start. So first up is All Hallows Eve, and we have this lovely artwork here of this woman. I assume she's a witch, standing in a group of trees, looking out. And there are words, there are affirmations or whatever on the bottom of each card, but they are rather small, so can be quite difficult to read. I don't know if I can get the focus right. No, it doesn't look like it. But this one says, call upon the voices who stir your senses through the night. Cast a mighty howl as you stomp your mighty through the ground. I think that's an error. Stomp your might would make more sense. Never mind. These things slip by occasionally, so that's fine. So that's All Hallows Eve. And then we have Altar. And this is an interesting card. We've got a lantern here and pumpkins and squashes, but we also have things that you would find on a witch's altar. Now, some of these are not what you might expect if you were following a lighter pathway. So we obviously have a skull here, and we have a gourd there, and a bell, which you can use to attract the spirits of the dead, or your ancestors or your guides or whatever. So yeah, this is very much aimed towards those who don't mind working with skulls and bones and things, which is fantastic. Love the autumn leaves going across the top here and the 4 candles. Wonder why they've chosen 4. Is this representative of the 4 elements, and then the skull could be spirit? Got pestle and mortar there, some crystals, a lantern to see in the darkness if needed. It's a lovely card. Oh, okay, so we've got some landscape cards here. So this one is called Ancestors, and I'm thinking this is... Okay, so this is either... Interpretations of this card immediately spring to mind are either this is a witch in a trance meditation state and these are the ancestors, or this is a member of our beloved dead and these are either ancestors welcoming that member of the beloved dead, or witches seeking advice from this ancestor. So this is quite interesting. There is an axe embedded in a block of, in a tree trunk here, which is also interesting. The wording says, they hiss a quivering so deep only the roots of your soul can lift the nakedness hidden within the voices made in silence. Or the vows made in silence, sorry. An ancient chill walking upon spine. Ooh, how interesting. Okay, then we have Athame. So we have a witch sitting here with her Athame in hand at some kind of altar. We've got peacock feathers, a candle. Cut the cords that hold you here. Be clear of how you wish to steer. Lovely. Could use that very much in a cord cutting ritual or spell or as a mantra. Lovely moon here. I love this artwork from Giada. I think it's amazing. And the clothing has a very Victorian-esque feel to it at the moment, which is very interesting. Oh, so some of these cards could be considered quite scary. This is the Banshee. And the Banshee is a Celtic spirit that would scream when a member of a family was due to die. And often it was only the person due to die who could hear her. But you know, different myths have slightly different interpretations of that. And I love the eyes, and I love the darkness around her, and yeah, she's appropriately spooky. Yeah. Bat. This reminds me a little bit of Wuthering Heights, actually, this card, with this moorland and these craggy cliffs or rocks. Reminds me of Wuthering Heights, which is set in the wild moors of Yorkshire, but also reminds me of my own local area here in the Peak District in England, where we have a lot of rocky outcrops and patches of moorland and big sweeping hills where, you know, the wind carries quite a lot. And we do have bats around the home, so yeah, lovely card. Lovely, lovely. Black cat. What deck about witches doesn't have a black cat in it? Wonderful. Witch on a broomstick. Again, quite Victorian in the outfit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles. That's interesting. 9's a good witchy number. 3 times 3. Yeah. Soaring above the town. It's a I've noticed this a lot of the time when you get a black cat in a deck, it's a short hair, which is interesting because a lot of the witches I know that have cats have long hair black cats. We have a long hair black cat, and yeah, long hair, short hair, medium hair, doesn't really matter. And at the end of the day, if your familiar is not a black cat, if your familiar is another type of creature or another colour, it's fine, because it's all about the connection between the witch and her familiar. So yeah, beautiful. Or his familiar, in fact, or their familiar. Yeah, let's get some gender terms in there properly. Instead of assuming witches are female all the time, because they are not. Be interesting to see if there's any gender representation in this deck, actually, or disability representation, because I've not seen any so far. Right, this one's blood magic, and is this a pomegranate that she's holding here that's dripping in blood? Don't know. I love the fact that the colours are so muted. Even the reds, these are really deep burgundy blood reds. Some thought's really gone into the palette. Fantastic. Broom. Little less Victorian era here in the clothing. Maybe a little bit more historical, but still fits in. Candle magic for female witches, or identifying as female witches, sitting around a table. 3 candles on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 floating around them. So again, 9 candles like we had on the is it the Black Cat card? 9 candles floating above them. This archway. This archway is almost Moroccan in style, which is quite interesting. I wonder if that was a particular design choice. Cauldron. Got a cat here, not a black one. That's great. Hanging herbs. 3 lots of hanging herbs again. 2 witches. Ooh, a centaur. So we have a male in the deck, but it is a centaur, half man, half horse. And, you know, in fact, he's got horns. So he could be, you know, also representative of Cernunnos, Lord of the Hunt. Don't know. Chalice. Bit of nudity there. Two candles, some gourds, some conkers split open. I'm wondering if this is Maiden Mother Crone. Got the moon behind. Coming of winter. Okay. So we've got some dried herbs here. Looks like some lavender and some, possibly some broom or some meadowsweet. I don't know. Got snowy landscape, some evergreen plant life, or could just be, you know, last throes of autumn there. Candle. Nice picture of a beloved dead member of some form, some books and things. Pretty card, very pretty card. Oh, this next card does have a lot of nudity on it. Coven. So this looks like a more traditionalized expectation of a witch's coven where, you know, everyone hangs out naked. Not all covens are like this. Not everyone goes sky-clad. But, you know, some do, and that is also completely fine. Again, lots and lots of female representation so far. Creativity. Again, mainly women. Love this concept of the moon showing itself in its, you know, what would be considered the maiden phase. So, you know, creativity, birthing things, bringing things, manifesting things into the light, into your world, you know, helping things grow. But also the concept of, you know, it waxes and wanes. You can't be 100% creative or 100% on all the time. You need time to rest and recharge and refill your creative well. So, yeah. And I wonder how much of this might also connect with deities connected with creativity and the moon. And this river that's going on. River of creativity, perhaps. Interesting. It'd be very interesting to see what the book says about some of these cards. I'm not looking at that at the moment. I'm just giving you my main thoughts. Crystals and herbs. This is a really hard deck to video or photograph because of the dark palette. But the dark palette is entirely appropriate for it. So here we have a witch with her pestle and mortar and some crystals and herbs and oils and things, making some kind of potion or incense. Excuse me. I love the hanging herbs in the background. Yeah, nicely done. Nicely done. Okay, dark moon. Ooh, okay. So we've got this lovely witch with some kind of spell or smoke emanating with this dark moon in the background. Or it could be some kind of divine transmission coming down, because a lot of witches and pagans believe that the dark moon is the time to actually rest and rejuvenate and connect with divine guidance on a more intense level than you would do on a day-to-day level. So this could be some kind of divine guidance coming down during your dark moon rest, reflect, connect sessions. Also, you know, the dark moon is great for baneful magic, so it could be some kind of banishing or binding spell that's going out. I don't know. Interesting. Death. Okay, so again, we've got some male characters in, or presenting as male characters. Interesting how we've got the scythe coming down. And a holy book of some form. Don't know. this mist as if they are stepping through the veil or standing in the veil. Very, very, very evocative. I'm trying to work out whether this is the same person, you know, whether this is him in life and then him once the scythe has come down. Don't know. But also, you know, the concept of your story is never over. The energy lives on. I love that. You know, your story is yours to write and yours to own. And, you know, when deaths occur, the energy of that person or that animal or that situation, it changes, it transmutes. It may not be there visibly on the physical anymore, but is still there in terms of energy, and the story can continue. Of course, we don't actually know what goes on once physical death happens. But that's part of the great mystery and the great concept of being comfortable with uncertainty, isn't it? Great card. Divination. Kind of like what we're doing now. Oh, and look, the cards that she's got out look like actual cards from this deck. If I turn it over, that looks like the Black Cat card that we've already seen. That looks like the Broom card. I love the meta quality of this, where you can actually, you know, see that she's going within the deck that she's already part of. Love the collar and the necklace. Crystal ball. Interesting. Is that a spider or something, or is that some kind of face almost? Spider and some crystals maybe, but it looks like some kind of face almost in that bottom corner. I don't know if people can see what I'm getting at there. Full moon, hanging of herbs again. I love how the themes are consistent across the cards in the deck. Sometimes you get decks that are about a particular theme, and while they work as a number of cards in the deck that are all associated with that theme, there can be not that much cohesiveness between cards. So, you know, I really like how there is that cohesiveness. I mean, the Halloween tarot, which is cartoonish and fantastic, and I have used for years, decades even. There is some fantastic cohesiveness and continuity through that deck, where you've got a black cat on every single card, almost guiding you through the fool's journey of tarot. So yeah, I love it when deck creators and deck illustrators really think about, okay, so the deck is about this theme. How can we make that theme even more cohesive and even more connected and consistent between the cards? So yeah, love it. Elders. Older witch. Hag-like crone type energy. In a chair, holding the moon. So potentially representative of her holding her wisdom and having access to it all the time. Love these art prints. Moth, hand, nature, that natural connection, but also the moth as being representative of dreams and nightmares, you know, and nighttime messages and messages in the stillness and the silence. So yeah. And then various, looks like toadstools and mushrooms. So yeah, those could be considered plant allies and poisonous or hallucinogenic magics. Love the symbolism here. There's a lot in this card. Dried herbs again. And I get the feeling that even though she is seated, there's a lot of power and majesty and ability here, despite the fact that she is seated, and she may appear like a wizened crone who maybe has mobility issues at this point in her life. But I get the feeling that there is that sense of energy and that sense of purpose and movement with her. I really like this card. Really, really like it. Okay, elements. For women, again, I love how this is obviously water. Her dress becomes a river. Obviously earth with her tending. Again, toadstools coming in. Fire with this burning staff. And air. And again, we've got this wind, smoke quality coming in. Love these watercolour backgrounds. Chalice as well. Lovely. Okay, frog. Okay, so this is obviously a familiar card. You know, traditionally frogs and toads. Yeah, love the autumnal colours in the background here on the trees. Candelabra with 3 candles. Love the Gothic noir of this. I think it's wonderful. Beautiful frog in the middle there. Very much an ally. Apples. Ooh, okay. So we've got some silver birches in the background. Why we've got silver birches in the background when the card is about apples, I don't know. But we've got a lady here in, excuse me, her cloak, carrying a basket of apples. This is giving me serious evil stepmother vibes from Snow White. But, you know, apples are an important part of the harvest season. You know, Samhain, in my tradition that I follow, Samhain is the last of the 3 harvests that we have, and it's the harvest of souls, and apples are known as the fruits of the dead, amongst other names. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the interpretation and the reasons given for this card is actually in the guidebook. Yeah, interesting. Ghost. Ooh, now okay. So again, Victorian-esque clothing, but with this corset, almost a throwback to earlier historical periods. Definitely, actually, with now that I'm actually looking at her hairpiece and such, definitely pre-Victorian, I would say. And this concept of this ghost coming out. So is this an out-of-body experience? Is this, you know, I'm assuming it's herself as a ghost because they're very similar. You know, the concept of the spirit within. Very interesting card. It speaks more to me of out-of-body experiences, though, and, you know, astral projection than it does of actual ghosts. But that might just be the one way of reading it. And it could be, you know, the ghosts of our beloved dead that we hold inside our hearts. Could be that as well. Interesting. Goddesses of Soin. Okay, so obviously we've got, again, naked women on this card. These goddesses could be any goddesses from any white Western culture, mythology, appearing to be different ages as well. My issue here is a lot of the women we've seen in the cards, I think all the women we've seen so far in the cards are quite slender, which is as a larger female, I have issues with that, because women come in all shapes and sizes, you know, and it would be nice to have some diversity in cards reflecting that. So yeah, I'm trying to work out whether this is smoke, whether these are snakes, whether these are the threads of life that these goddesses may have dominion over. You know, if you start thinking about the 3 fates, you know, the threads of life. I don't know. Yeah, interesting. Obviously some kind of moon in the background. I was originally wondering if they were standing in a cave, but I'm beginning to think that this is the moon. Oh, and nicely we have the gods of Samhain which is great. That was going to be my next question. Do we get a Gods of Samhain? We do get a Gods of Samhain. Nice racial diversity. First time we've seen it in this deck. Would be nice to have more of it, particularly with the women, given they are a huge focus of the deck. Wondering if these guys are in a cave, as again, because of the darkness. Could just be, you know, because the card is dark. This is the background. Interesting, we've got the axe there. We had an axe on the Ancestors card buried in a tree trunk. So, yeah, again, could be seen as, you know, similar to the scythe in the concept of the cutting of life or the cutting of cords. Okay, Graveyard. This is an interesting card. There is a song that bellows in the peace of knowing no end, in acknowledging the crossroads of eternity. What an interesting concept. I don't know why we've got these three witches, women, draped around this. It's very artistically draped. It's not very... It's almost like they're using the graveyard just as a backdrop for the picture, which kind of takes away some of its power. You know, I would like this card to be more reverent than that for me, you know, because graveyards are a place to honour. They're not a place to use as background photography or anything like that. In the same way that, you know, if you want to get married and you want to get married in a church, go to church. Don't just use it as a backdrop. Don't just use it as a setting for your grand day. Actually, you know, if you're gonna get involved, get involved. You know, don't just pay lip service. I'm a bit disappointed in that card, actually, just purely because of the stylization of the women. But again, the artist may have reasons for why this card, or even the deck creators may have had the say of how they wanted the women to appear on this card. So yeah, interesting how we all view cards differently and think about how we would do things differently. Okay, Greet the Darkness. Now this is a really dark card. You can hardly see, but there's three naked women here. You can just about see their outlines, and of course their glowing white hair. A lot of people think the darkness is something to be scared about. It's not. In truth, we have to go there because the darkness is often a great source of potential and power and creativity and understanding, both for ourselves and for those around us. And only when we really go through our darknesses can we help others go through theirs. You know, and sometimes it can be an intentional journey into the darkness, and other times we get dragged kicking and screaming into it and then have to figure our way through it. Because there's no going up and over, below and underneath or around when the darkness comes. The only way is through. And the lessons that we learn during that journey can be life-changing. Interesting card. Oh, and talking about life-changing lessons, grief. Okay. Interesting how she's tied at the wrists. Almost like a puppet, marionette. But, you know, is this her trapped by her grief? Is this her holding on too tightly to those who have passed on? Or is this... no. Going through the motions, like a marionette, going through the motions when you're grieving. You know, there's that numbness that happens where you've got to go through the motions, but you're not really conscious of doing so. When you've had a bereavement, it can often feel like you've got to keep breathing, you've got to keep eating and drinking and doing all the things that, keep us alive. But at the same time, we're so numbed out and so tangled up in our grief, there we go, that it's really difficult to see ourselves doing anything other than just, the sum total bare necessities of surviving. And that is just one interpretation of this card. It's also one experience of grief. There are many, many different experiences of grief. That's just what came to mind for me during this card. Yeah. Haunted. Obviously, hands reaching through the veil. I love this evocativeness of, calling to mind a haunted woodland or a haunted forest. We often see that in horror movies and spooky films and gothic films, the concept of the forbidden forest or something like that. So I like that nod to a forest here, but also the concept of these could also be roots. Yeah, so being haunted by our past, where we came from, being haunted by people that have died and have been buried, and therefore their roots are tangled up in tree roots and stuff. Yeah, interesting card. The Healer. Here she is in all her glory, and we get some racial diversity here, which is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. This is a very powerful card. Obviously, symbology with the moon on her forehead. The moon in the background, reminding us where our wisdom comes from. And she's got some really interesting jewellery on there, rings and crystals, and this robe or cloak of different colours and maybe even some feathers around the top, reminding us of nature's role in how we heal. I love this card. Ooh. It says, listen as the medicine bleeds through her teeth, a river of mercy blessed by mother, seen only by those who hold her mirror. Fantastic. That is a great card. Intuition. Oh, okay. Some people might find this card very unsettling with the third eye there. Open. And the third eye obviously being the seat of our intuition. In chakra terminology, it's where our psychic abilities sit. It's where awareness happens. And we've got this moon in the background and a moon here. And this is interesting because this moon is your standard moon, but this moon is a blue moon. So we've got two full moons here, and a blue moon is traditionally two full moons in the same calendar month. So this is nice here. And during a blue moon, magically speaking, all your intuition and your awareness is supposed to be extra heightened. So I like this, the way that this has been brought in. And also, this, you could trace it into this eternal symbol in and out the lemniscate of eternal knowing. Yeah. Nice. Nicely done. Journey. Again with the nakedness. Why? Possibly because, when you go on a journey of any kind of spiritual significance, you do tend to get stripped back. Very evocative of Inanna's descent into the underworld, where she meets Ereshkigal. Love this. This could be a road. This could be a river. This could be the river Styx, where the ferryman guides the souls of the dead to the other side. Fantastic. Yeah, can understand the nakedness now. Yeah. Mischief. So that you can't see this very well, but you have some kind of house, and these four witches generally just getting up to no good. This is almost Russian. I'm wondering why that's why that has been chosen, because it doesn't really feel in tune with the rest of the building, but who knows? I could be very wrong there, but this does feel almost Russian. This is Nature Spirits. So we've got a lovely bed going on there. She's sleeping in nature. She's connecting with nature. Sorry about the noise in the background then, if you heard that. I love how she's horned. This reminds me of Ellen of the Ways very strongly. You know, goddess, one of the few horned goddesses we have. Goddess in nature, really connected. This bird here, I don't know what it is. It's obviously not a corvid of any known form. The beak is slightly curved, so it's not as curved as much as a curlew is, so I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6 candles around the bed. Trees, etc. The concept of, you know, nature speaks to us through dreams and symbols, as well as being out there actually in nature itself. So yeah, okay. Owl. Got some representative of an owl here. I don't know if it's a specific species or not, but representative of an owl. And a woman cloaked in feathers. Yeah, with the trees behind. Yeah, very much so. Carolyn Hillier, in her book Sacred House, where women weave songs into the earth. That's it, Sacred House. She has a story about a woman who rescues owls, and that card brings this to mind to me very much. Oddly enough, I don't get a Blodeuwedd vibe from this. You know, Blodeuwedd is the Celtic goddess connected with owls, and I don't get a vibe of her from this, which is interesting. But yeah, maybe it's not supposed to represent any kind of goddess. Maybe it's just the witch and yet another familiar. Potions and spells. Now this is the same as the book cover. This is the same as the book cover, so it's nice to actually see this actually in the deck as a card. Potions and spells. We've got smudge stick, feathers, ink, crystal pendulum, some garlic in a bowl with something else. Unless, no, it looks like garlic. It might. I was wondering if it'd be a spell pouch, but yeah. Couple of books, potentially spell books, books of shadow. Some lavender, some potions. Very nice, yeah. All indicative of a witch's work when she, he, they are working at their altar. So yeah, very nice. Okay, protection. Okay, now funnily enough, this speaks more of ghosts to me, possibly because of the sheets coming down, the veils. You know, I had problems with the ghost card earlier. This is, but at the same time, you know, I understand why this is a protection card, because you know you've got this lovely veil of protection that comes down over you when you actually do energy work, energetic protection work. That is one way of seeing a protective bubble around yourself, is to actually have you enshrouded in some kind of veil. And also, you know, the concept of every time you do mantras and prayer work, there's the energy of that veil spinning around you. There's also the concept of, you know, if you travel beyond the veil, intentionally or not, you know, to connect with spirits from the other side, or to connect with any kind of divine entities, then, you know, you're passing through the veil. So yeah, nice veils, interesting. You know, and you can also call upon your ancestors and guides to protect you. So, you know, the concept that I see this being more ghostly than it's meant to be is gives me a key to when I'm reading with this deck to remind myself, you know, that my ancestors are there for me to look after me if I need them. Oh, another landscape card. I think this is the second one that we've had. This is pumpkin. One of my favourite things in the whole wide world, pumpkins. Both to eat and to enjoy magically and carve and such. I used to grow pumpkins and I really enjoyed that experience, and I'd like to get back to doing that. But that was a long time ago. That was 20-ish years ago that I was growing pumpkins. I really need to get my little plot in the garden sorted out so that I can start getting a bit more self-sufficient again. But nice big pumpkin. Witch sat with it in the forest, some candles. Be interesting to know what pumpkin reads as in this deck. You know, are they going down the traditional magical significance of pumpkins, or is it going to be something different? Okay, Raven. Again, some nakedness going on. Raven, we've got good corvid. I'm not sure raven tails are actually that long, but, you know, could be indicative of the power of the raven as a transporter of the souls of the dead, as a shamanic teacher, as a bird that crosses the veil. Got the moon there. Raven is a really powerful ally, so I can understand why it's front and centre in this card. Because, you know, in some of the other cards, the other familiar cards like the owl card, the frog, the black cat, they have almost seemed secondary to the witch in the card. Whereas the raven is front and centre, very bold. I will show you the way. Let's pierce the veil together. Yeah, I can teach you magic. That sort of vibe. Rebirth, which is around a bonfire. Nicely done. Love the fire here. Love the colour palette. This is wonderful to me. Obviously, you know, fire destroys but also creates. Reclaim. So, naked witch wandering around, wandering, don't know, around a bonfire. Reclaiming her power. Might be reclaiming herself after being through the darkness and coming through it. Got this watercolory background. Is this the forest? Is this a veil? Is it meant to be nebulous like that? Not sure. But yeah, definitely reclaiming power. And in fact, in a way, this reminds me of the Guy Tarot Guardian of Fire card, which is a man tending a bonfire. And a lot of that is nurturing, reclaiming your power, nurturing your power. And in fact, the Four of Fire from the same deck, the Guy Tarot, actually has a woman standing in a circle of stones, very much reclaiming her power. And both of those cards come to mind when I look at this one. Yeah. Okay. Reflection. Mirror in the background, maybe. Crystal ball. She's got a rather piercing gaze, hasn't she? And often we learn so much when things are reflected back to us. Which is why, you know, therapy is a good idea. Coaching is a good idea. Having someone to actually help you untangle what's going on for you, rather than trying to get through it yourself, is a good idea, because they can reflect, you know, if they're well trained and they know their stuff, they can reflect things back to you in a way that forces you to see them or makes you more aware of particular patterns or bad habits, limiting beliefs, that sort of thing. Great. Ritual. Woman in circle, lots of candles. 18 candles. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 is 3 plus 3. Great numerical representation there. Obviously kneeling in the throes of any kind of ritual invocation, evocation, depending on what she's doing. Yeah. Be careful of that skirt on those candles, lovey. Been down that route. It's not fun. Rooted. Actually, there's a mark on this. There's a mark on this card, which is a bit disappointing. Something that's happened in the printing process, looks like. Barefoot on the ground. So yeah, really feeling that grounded nature. Yeah. To me, though, rooted, it demonstrates being rooted, being grounded, indicates power to me. Standing in your power place. This is not a power pose to me. This is someone just wandering. So I don't know. The barefoot on the earth, great. The pose, not so much. Dunno. Seduction. And here we have 3 women with antlers, with horns. Filmy see-through dresses. Full moon. Very, very tiny text on this card. Very tiny. Really hard to read that. And sometimes, you know, that's one of the things, you know, the colour choices are fantastic, but I wish they'd paid more attention to what they were putting on the cards in terms of the actual text, and made that a bit more, either less text so that they could make it bigger and more legible, or if it's a card with a lot of text on it like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, then, you know, making it a bit easier to read. Silence. Ooh, I love how she's sitting on the stairs. We've got candles. We've got a pumpkin at the top. She's holding some kind of botanical matter, leaves of some form. There is a sweet embrace in the nothingness stillness brings, a presence of self fully embodied. That's what it says, and that is wonderful. I love this card. She does look kind of content, peaceful, relaxed in her environment. And I love it because, you know, there is the concept of, I don't know about any of you guys, but, you know, often sitting on the stairs in your home is often a really quiet place to sit and just be. And it's also indicative of liminal space. You know, you're not upstairs, you're not downstairs, you're somewhere in between. There's this liminal space that's going on. This in-between space, which is also indicative of, you know, the path a witch walks. A witch walks a path where 1 foot is in the realm of the living and 1 foot is in the realm of the spirit, constantly. You know, regardless of if you are a religious witch or a crafting witch, you know, your practice is more based in craft and you have a separate spiritual or religious faith. You know, there's this concept of walking the edge of the veil, walking the liminal space, being in that space, in that between place. Love it. One of my favourites. Yeah. Skull. Very skeletal. Can't decide whether this is actually a skull or a mask or face paint or whatever. Almost invocative of Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. Almost. It's not as brightly coloured. These speak to me of the red flowers, red and white flowers that you would braid in your hair. Not knowing much about the customs of Dia de los Muertos except the basics. I don't want to be offensive or anything. Interesting. Quite a challenging gaze there. Some people will find this card really difficult. For me, I could quite easily sit and have a meditation talking to the archetype of this card. Would be very interesting to do some kind of meditation, visualization, journey regarding your own mortality with this card. Spider. And this is almost grandmother spider, you know. We've got this lovely web in the background. The witch / spider form in the foreground. And again, you know, you could argue the witch is in the foreground. You could argue the spider is in the foreground. What a very powerful representation of this important familiar animal ally. Love the grey in particular, the washed out varying shades here. Beautiful, beautiful. Spirit. Okay, so is this the light of spirit that she's holding, that she's calling to her? Is this her connection, almost like the Rainbow Bridge connection between her and the spirit world, you know? Is she offering up her magic to connect across the veil, her energy? Interesting interpretation of that card. The veil. Okay, so we've got a bride here. Walking down the stairs, so, you know, traversing liminal space, like I've just been talking about in the silence card. Candle's gone out. Got some dried herbs there of some form. And you know, this could be crossing the veil, you know, if you view the concept of you know, descending into that darkness again, like earlier when I was talking about Inanna and Aresh Kagal, descending into the darkness, descending across the veil. Interesting. Third harvest. Like I was saying earlier, you know, in my tradition, Samhain is the third harvest, the harvest of souls. You know, and a bit of a stretch, but you could say you've got all three harvests here. Lunasa at the beginning of August, the harvest of corn and grain. You've got the witch walking through the field here. She is physical, she's blood and bone. In my tradition, the autumnal equinox is the feast of blood and berries. It's the feast of meat, the harvest of the meat produce. You know, the slaughtering of animals for meat and other gifts for the winter ahead. And obviously, you know, she's got a soul, harvest of souls, Samhain. Bit of a stretch, but yeah, nicely done. And this purity from the white dress that she's got, this purity of the fact that, you know, harvest can be pure, it could not be. You know, what are you harvesting and why? Are you doing it with pure intent? Transformation. Mountains again. We had mountains in the previous card as well. We've got mountains again. We've got some kind of spell billowing out from her hands. There's obviously some kind of spell work going on there. What's she going to transform into? Why? How? Is she transforming into anything? She could be transforming out of something. Change. Truth. Oh, nice. Okay, so, you know, blue, the colour of truth, appears on this card. Nice nod to that. Haven't seen much blue so far in this deck, so it doesn't feel out of place, but it is a nice addition. They're quite somber blues, so yeah, you know, more towards the grey end of the spectrum, so definitely ties in with the deck given all the grey hues that we've had so far. Fantastic. The mask that we wear, the mask that other people wear, can we see beyond the mask? What does that take? And the fact that, you know, beyond the mask often, travelling beyond the mask often involves going into a personal darkness. Yeah, really like this card. You know, and the eyes of the mask quite challenging again. You know, what can you see? Dare you peek underneath? The underworld. 3 women, very long hair. Full moon. Some type of stone structure here. Gateway. You know, dare you traverse the underworld? These could be indicative of the 3 fates. Might not be. Misty, nebulous watercolour, which is prevalent throughout the whole deck, but yeah, I like that one. I'd be interested to do meditations where you embody each of the women in this card, or you travel through the archway, you become the moon. Lots of options there. Voices. And we actually have a bit of brighter colour here. We've got some real pumpkin-y orange, pale pumpkin-y orange. We've got some yellow. These are quite folk outfits, attire. And you've got some tiny little leaves and things. So still evocative of autumn. Still a very autumnal palette. Beautiful. And these, you know, these could be voices from your ancestors, your beloved dead, your mighty dead. They could be voices of the people around you and the people you learn from. Voices from other cultures, other pathways, other ideas. And they could also be the voices inside your head, you know, the different personas that you portray. You could have different deities represented here. There's lots of interpretation. Mist, swirling mist going on with the trees in the background. This hidden forest. Like that. Witch. Okay, and interesting how, you know, a lot in this deck as well, a lot of the witches are portrayed in black, and this one is portrayed in white. So, you know, purity, pure intention, pure of heart. Got all the botanicals here on the card, very representative of the witch's connection with nature. The yellow here could symbolise the sun, could symbolise knowledge, could symbolise energy. Nice card. Oh, the third of landscape cards. This is the Witching Hour. Slender white female witches again. Bit of a disappointment. That would really have liked a bit more diversity. There's no visibly disabled people in this deck from what I can see. Also a bit of a letdown. But, you know, can't have everything. Still a very beautiful deck. 3 witches. Could be representative of Maiden, Mother, Crone. Could be representative again, the 3 fates. Could be a coven of 3. Who knows? That magical time when you're in ritual, when you've got the witching hour upon you. Yeah. And, you know, doing the work in the trees and in the vale. And then the last card is Wolf. And we've got, why is the wolf indoors? I don't know. Again, we've got this moth symbology at the top. Dreams and nightmares to me. You know, nocturnal guardian, guide. Full moon. Wolf is howling. Lantern to see through the darkness. 2 witches here. And this witch is almost hidden behind the wolf. So it's almost like the she-wolf within, or the the he wolf within, or the they wolf within, whatever, the inner wolf, the inner wildness. Variety of teapots there. So almost Red Riding Hood-esque vibes. For me as well, I can't help it, but whenever I see wolves, I read this amazing series of books that I reread on a regular basis, actually. It's about 16, 17 books long, called The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. And one of the characters in that is a wolf called Night Eyes. And he is the personification of living in the present and mindfulness and primal presence. And he's such a wise and yet fun character. And whenever I see a wolf, my mind instantly goes to Night Eyes. I can't help it. You know, and the scenes where, you know, Night Eyes is with his companion and his, you know, Fitz, and they, for a while, they live in a cabin in the woods where Night Eyes can come and go. So, you know, this speaks to me of that as well. Especially when the Fool comes to visit and they have tea. So there's that extra layer of meaning for me, based on one of my, probably my all-time favourite series of books, to be honest. Robin Hobb, go check her out. Love this wild places outside the window, this representation of that. That's fabulous. And the wolf is almost ghost-like as well in this. It's a grey wolf, but he's almost ghost-like. He, she, they're almost ghost-like. Okay, so that's all of the cards. That's taken me a while to get through those. So let's just do a very quick shuffle. And they shuffle nicely, actually. They shuffle really well. Whoops. I am not going to count jumping cards in this. I am actually going to draw a card and give you my interpretation and then have a quick look in the book. Behave. Come on. They are a bit slippery. As are a lot of new card decks until you've got some wear in them. And you can handle them a bit better because you're then used to their quirks. But yeah, they shuffle nicely, as can be seen. And, you know, just thinking about a message for what we need today. And we get the Goddesses of Samhain. And across the bottom it says, feel our song rise above flames, a spirit weaving, magic casting, bone piercing howl heard far across the quickening drums within our mother. So yeah, Goddess of Soin, connection with the mother, connection with, see, to me Samhain is more a crone season or an elder season, so not necessarily mother, though all representations of parentage is welcomed, are welcomed. This to me would be guidance. It would be divine guidance. Don't forget that you are connected. Don't forget that we're here from you. You know, you have a spiritual support team. Use it. Let's see what the book says. Don't know where it is in the book. That's the only downside. There doesn't seem to be any kind of index to this card is on this page or whatever. So I might actually spend the time making that up, and then I could print it out very small and stick it in the back. I've done that before with Oracle decks where there's not been an index. And especially if it's not a guidebook where everything is listed A to Z or the cards don't have a number on them, I've definitely had to put an index in the back. So keywords: life and rebirth, feminist, And it says, women hold a unique power that literally contains the force of all life. Within a woman's womb lies the ability to create a life out of but a tiny seed. She is the vessel for the world's ultimate creation, and the goddess is the ultimate representation of feminine energy. Now, remembering as well that life doesn't necessarily mean physical life. It could mean birthing a project, birthing a community. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to mean physical life. Birthing a legacy, birthing a card deck, birthing a book. The goddess comes in many forms, often changing her appearance to be whatever is needed most for those who gaze upon her. Yes, she is capable of creating life and death, love and abundance, peace and chaos. She is at one time a maiden, mother and crone, flowing through life with an emotional and physical strength that is unmatched. Women must navigate many transformations through one lifetime. They are experts in the cycle of life and rebirth. Like the goddess, a woman must take the shape of whatever is needed most of her at any one given time. Same could be said of anybody, though. You know, that's not just a feminine trait, that adaptability. Yes, women are arguably better at it than men, if you were keeping a very binary outlook on this. But, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily agree with, you know, this being solely women related. Sometimes appearing to take two different forms in just one moment. I have experienced that of her, definitely of the goddess. Her ability to shift through life's challenges is a miracle at least, but sometimes we women need a little helping hand. So it's a very women-focused deck, obviously. And the goddess is waiting to lend her healing powers wherever you need. If you are holding goddesses of Samhain, now is the time to dive deep into your female energy. You must embrace the characteristics of the goddess, the yin energy. You do not have to force your will on a situation. The goddess does not need brute force to accomplish her goals. She has a natural wisdom that allows her to flow through life just as smoothly as she flips her hair. What? What? Just as smoothly as she flips her hair. That's very... I'm actually brought to mind of the musical Wicked with Toss Toss, but never mind. That to me feels very shallow. But hey, that's just me. When you are holding this card, know you too have the ability to ebb and flow with ease. Yes, you do. The ability to create is already part of your genetic makeup, though you can, and you do not need to struggle to find it. Though you can call on the goddess for help and support if you're unsure of how to tap into this energy. So yeah, the goddesses are here, your spiritual support team, you know, connection. So I'm on track with that. If you are a man, okay. This oracle is advising you to seek your feminine energy too. All men and women are made of both male and female power. Standing in your divine feminine does not make you weak, makes you more compassionate and supportive. It may seem natural as a man to approach everything with aggression, but you can learn a thing or two from waiting things out. Oh, that's quite bossy. Authoritative. You too can call on the goddess for help and support in your unleashing your feminine wisdom. And then there is... a brief paragraph on what to do if the card is reversed. Not reading reversals today. And a list of a few goddesses of Samhain. You've got Demeter, Hecate, Hel, Kali, Lilith, the Morrigan, Persephone, Pomona, Psyche and Rhiannon. So yes, it's a very binary concept of sexuality and gender identity. But you know, if you take away how they've presented that writing and just take the core message of, you know, life, rebirth, the goddess is here for you, your spiritual support team is here for you, you know, connect with that, embrace your inner goddess, you know, remembering that she can be compassionate and gentle, but she can also be fierce and strong and powerful in any form. Then yeah, and you know, if you work with the darker deities or you're interested in connecting with the goddesses of Samhain, you do have a little bit of information here about some of them, depending on your inclinations. Would have been nice to actually see what pantheon they were from. I know what pantheon all of these are from, because I've been practicing a long while and I read a lot and experience quite a bit. But for a newcomer, would have been nice to be able to see what pantheon each of these goddesses that I listed are from, and it wouldn't have taken that much more space, because then they could at least, there would be a little bit more information for you, you know, knowing that, you know, it does say it there for Hel, it says Norse Queen, but for the other goddesses, not so much. And if you're a beginner to working with goddesses, or a beginner witch on the path, or you've just picked up this deck purely because it looked interesting, then a little bit more information to help you on your path would have been good there. But that's just me being really picky. I can see as I flick through the deck, this through the book briefly, there's some bits and pieces, like there's some crystals and herbs that are good for sewing, different divinational practices. You've got candle colour correspondences for if you are doing any candle magic. I don't remember seeing a candle magic card, but there again, you know, I probably did. Oh yes, it's the one with the 4 women sat around the table. I did see it. You know, and I like the fact that you've got some keywords underneath each of the card names. You've got the keywords and then the text from the card, and then the explanation and the card reversal information as well. And then you've got little tidbits of extra information scattered here and there about witches. And oh look, there's a recipe for spiced pumpkin cake. Ooh. Oh, now I might have to go and make that, because, oh, frosting. And I could put my own pumpkin pie spice in, because we make that at home. We don't buy it, we make it. Okay, I can see myself doing a bit of baking this weekend. Nice little book actually, because it's got this spattering of extra information in there for things, you know. Oh, there's a cord cutting spell, that's useful. Yeah. And nice as well to say what you do with your spell ingredients after the spell. I like the fact that they've scattered bits and pieces of actual witchcraft in there. And actual spell work and divination and things to do. And extra information is quite I could actually sit and just read this book as an actual book, as opposed to just looking up particular cards. So yeah. And you know, some of the text on the bottom of the cards can be used as mantras and affirmations and chants. So yeah, it's nice. It's really, really nice. So thank you for joining me on this video, which has turned out a lot longer than I anticipated it being, and I'm sorry for that, but I hope you get a good idea of what this deck is like. As I said, it's from shopspiritelement.com. I think that's where I got it from. I'm pretty sure it is. I hope that there is a Yule deck, because I would quite happily use a Yule deck as well. And it says, you know, this deck is a merry creation featuring celebration, peace, and a little bit of chaos too. You know, perfectly sums up, you know, the festive season. And I would quite happily work with that deck as well. And I'm wondering whether the deck creators have got the plan to actually create a deck for each of the 8 Sabbats or festivals of the Wheel of the Year. And if so, if they all end up being this size and this quality, you could end up with a monster deck. And I would be quite tempted to somehow have that deck. It would be impossible to shuffle, you know, because if they're all 60 cards, then 8 times 6, my maths isn't good, 8 times 6 is a lot of cards, basically. I can't do that math off the top of my head. You know, so it would be impossible to shuffle. But if you had it, I'm thinking on now, the deck creators might not be planning, you know, a deck for every Sabbath. I don't know. But if they did and you had them all, you could quite easily somehow shuffle them all together, maybe get a big tray and just swirl them round on the tray all together. And then, you know, be able to work with it year round, because the energies of Samhain, for example, are not just prevalent at Samhain. There's other points in the year where I definitely feel that Samhain vibe, or there's points in the year where I feel like the veil is very, very thin. And it's not necessarily Samhain at all. So yeah, I would use this year round. It's deliciously dark. It's a little creepy in places. I really like it, and I'm going to be interested to see how this you know, integrates into my divination practices. I could definitely see myself doing some of the spreads from this deck. I could definitely see myself doing a singular card draw for a quick shot burst of inspiration and advice or awareness. So yeah, this has been the Seasons of the Witch Samhain Oracle by Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz, and illustrated by the amazing Giada Rose, who I'm going to go and see if she's on Instagram or something and follow her artwork quite a bit. This has been Heather, also known as Heathwitch. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you would like to comment on it, you can do so down below. Subscribe and share if you are so inclined, and hopefully I will see you back here again soon. Thank you. Many blessings.